today's video, we will discuss an exciting development in Japan regarding the lifting of the stablecoin ban, and the preparations being made by banks in response to this change. So, let's dive right in. Japan has been known for its strict regulations surrounding cryptocurrencies and digital assets. One of the notable regulations was the ban on Japanese banks from issuing or dealing with stablecoins. This ban was intended to protect consumers and prevent the potential risks associated with stablecoins. However, recent developments have brought about a change in this regulatory landscape. One of the significant regulatory changes in the cryptocurrency landscape in Japan involves the recent lifting of the stablecoin ban by the country's financial regulatory body, the Financial Services Agency, FSA. This decision comes as a response to the evolving nature of the crypto market and the recognition of the potential benefits that stablecoins can offer. The FSA's decision to lift the ban reflects a shift in the regulatory approach towards stablecoins in Japan. Previously, Japanese banks were prohibited from issuing or dealing with stablecoins due to concerns over consumer protection and the potential risks associated with these digital assets. However, with the increasing popularity and adoption of stablecoins globally, regulators have realized the need for a more flexible and balanced approach to regulation. The lifting of the ban allows Japanese banks to actively participate in the stablecoin market, offering a range of services related to stablecoin issuance, trading, and custody. This regulatory change paves the way for greater innovation and competition in the Japanese cryptocurrency industry, opening up new opportunities for financial institutions to leverage stablecoins benefits. FSA will continue to closely monitor the activities of banks and stablecoin issuers to ensure compliance with regulatory requirements. Anti-money laundering, AML, and Know Your Customer, KYC, regulations will be strictly enforced to prevent illicit activities and safeguard the integrity of the financial system. With the lifting of the stablecoin ban in Japan, banks are now preparing to tap into the opportunities presented by this regulatory change. The decision by the Financial Services Agency, FSA, has opened up new avenues for financial institutions to engage with stablecoins and leverage their benefits. Japanese banks recognize the potential of stablecoins to revolutionize various financial services, including remittances, cross-border transactions, and payment solutions. To capitalize on these opportunities, banks are actively exploring partnerships with stablecoin issuers, fintech companies, and blockchain firms. Collaborations between banks and stablecoin projects can facilitate the development of innovative financial products and services that cater to the evolving needs of customers. One key area where banks see significant potential is cross-border transactions. The use of stablecoins can streamline the process, reduce transaction costs, and enable faster settlement times compared to traditional methods. Banks can leverage the efficiency and transparency of blockchain technology to enhance the speed and security of cross-border payments, benefiting individuals and businesses alike. Another area of focus for banks is remittances. Stablecoins offer the potential to simplify and expedite remittance processes, particularly for individuals sending money overseas. By leveraging stablecoins, banks can provide their customers with faster and more cost-effective remittance services, ensuring timely transfers and reducing the reliance on traditional intermediaries. Stablecoins can enhance liquidity within the financial system. Banks can leverage stablecoins to improve liquidity management, optimize capital allocation, and facilitate fund transfers between different accounts and jurisdictions. The stability of stablecoins makes them an attractive option for banks to manage liquidity effectively and mitigate market volatility risks. The lifting of the stablecoin ban also presents an opportunity for banks to expand their digital asset offerings. By incorporating stablecoins into their product portfolios, banks can cater to the growing demand for digital assets and provide customers with more diverse investment options. This can attract a new segment of customers interested in cryptocurrencies and strengthen the bank's position in the rapidly evolving digital economy. It's important to highlight that the adoption of stablecoins by banks requires careful consideration of regulatory compliance and risk management. Banks must ensure adherence to anti-money laundering, AML, and Know Your Customer, KYC, regulations to prevent illicit activities and maintain the integrity of the financial system. Additionally, robust security measures and risk assessment frameworks need to be in place to safeguard customer funds and protect against cybersecurity threats. The lifting of the stablecoin ban in Japan has opened up exciting opportunities for banks to embrace the potential of stablecoins and leverage their benefits. By preparing for this regulatory change, banks can position themselves as innovative financial institutions, offering enhanced financial services to customers. The integration of stablecoins can streamline cross-border transactions, improve remittance processes, enhance liquidity management, and expand digital asset offerings. However, banks must prioritize regulatory compliance and risk management to ensure the safe and responsible adoption of stablecoins. The availability of stablecoins in Japan brings several benefits for both consumers and businesses. Stablecoins offer a stable value, typically pegged to a fiat currency, which reduces the volatility commonly associated with cryptocurrencies. This stability makes them ideal for everyday transactions, international remittances, and business settlements. Additionally, stablecoins enable faster and cheaper transactions compared to traditional banking systems. While the lifting of the stablecoin ban opens up new opportunities, it is important to highlight the regulatory safeguards in place. The FSA will closely monitor the activities of banks and stablecoin issuers to ensure compliance with anti-money laundering, AML, and Know Your Customer, KYC, regulations. This oversight aims to maintain the integrity of the financial system and protect consumers from potential risks. That concludes today's video on the lifting of the stablecoin ban in Japan and the preparations being made by banks to enter the stablecoin market. This development signifies a significant step forward in the adoption of cryptocurrencies and the recognition of their potential in the financial sector.
Hello everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk Now. On this Jasmy update, I want to talk about some things that you may or may not be aware of that was mentioned a while back. Let's face it, all the way back to January of 2023, and that is in regards to the lifting of the foreign stablecoins. It's been on the mind of quite a few people. Now, while Japan has not made an official announcement in regards to the unbanning of these particular ones, such as Tether, Circle, and so on, we have come to the conclusion many times that these things are worth paying attention to because, like I mentioned before in other deep dives, you will see a tremendous amount of volume. That makes sense coming into Japan because it's just a perfect case of giving more people access with these pairings. Now, again, I don't have an update in regards to that, but what I do have an update that we should pay all attention to is in regards to the local stablecoins in Japan, in regards to the financial sectors and so on, some of these local banks in various regions and municipalities of Japan. On top of that, to start our outline, we're going to get into this particular IVS conference and why I feel as though Jasmy is definitely going to set themselves apart from the pack, if you will, and really give themselves a chance to shine at this conference, which, by the way, is diamond sponsored by Ripple. No, that doesn't mean that they're a partner, but it does mean that Ripple is sponsoring this event in Japan. Really, really big. Let's jump into all of this right now. Here we go. All right, so I want to talk about this just for a brief moment. This guy, Akira, we know that he, of course, is, like it shows right here, he's a Jasmy ambassador in Greater China. He has been seen in Hong Kong as well as areas of Japan with Hara. I know I joke around and call him, Hara's homeboy, but in reality, he talks about this next event for Jasmy, and it is going to be big, in my opinion. He's going to talk, as well as the rest of the team, passionately about Jasmy Labs, data democracy, and this time around, how about this finance democracy? He says that they're also going to have a booth there and so on. And, some people point out, hey, I've been to the IVS crypto conference site. It does not mention on the speaker list anything from Jasmy. This is a nothing burger, right? Well, this is not a nothing burger. Understand this. Sometimes people just simply don't update the website in the fashion of how we would like it to be properly updated. That is a reality. Now, how so? Well, let's jump into this part real quick. As we know, this event's on June 28th through the 30th, coming up here real soon. But, I want to give JB a shout out, and he pointed out some things here. So, it talks about some of these stages, talks about some of these booths. It mentions a keynote from Jasmy, which is data democracy and finance democracy. So, when we think about Jasmy, obviously we talk about the PDLs, the secure PC, on and on, right? AI. But this time around, to also have this new thing about finance democracy, I think this is going to be big. How's it going to be big? Well, for one, if you go to the events slash next city of IVS dot events slash next city on their URL, there's this section here, right? And the reason why I want to draw this as a highlight for you guys who watch us here at CTN for Jasmy's coverage is it's worth pointing out. Now, this is why I feel as though that this won't just be another conference where it's like, oh, hey, cool, we showed up to this conference, we have a booth, we got exposure, there was some institutional money there. I mean, all that's impressive, don't get me wrong. We want to see this project have a presence at some of these conferences, but look at some of these key highlights, right? So we've done deep dives. Last deep dive was about, for instance, Toyota, Panasonic, and what they bring to the table when it comes to specifically getting like Society 5.0 going, smart cities, and so on, right? Well, what about this terminology? Next city. What does that mean? What does that entail, right? Let's jump into that. So it says social issues congregate eagerly anticipating the arrival of startups. You know, one of the key things I want to bring to your attention is this particular line right here where it says, we have created a space where you can see, hear, and immerse yourself in the forthcoming real disruptive innovations. As we know, Jasmy definitely has some disruptive innovations. Through what, guys? The Internet of Things, IoT, that was shaped this century, including groundbreaking advancements in life sciences, energy, decarbonization, AI, biology, robotics, and more. Everything that's mentioned right here is Jasmy 110%. So this is why I wanted to draw the attention to you guys, because I really feel as though, you know, don't get me wrong, there's going to be other projects that are really going to, you know, shine here. Obviously, we have like an ambassador from Ripple that's going to be at the event. We understand that we also have one of the CEOs from BitPoint, right? We covered why he's a significant player. He's also, you know, well connected to Jasmy. He also represents SBI. All those things are big, right? But for Jasmy itself to have a booth here and address some of these things that are key to the project for Jasmy, for myself and many of you guys out there, I feel as though that this really, really can help leapfrog them ahead of the rest of the packs of all the other projects that are going to be there. Will it happen? I hope so. Could it not? That's a possibility, but we're rooting for this, right? You better believe we are. So I want to jump into this other part. And of course, you could take more of your own deeper dive into Next City and so on. I would encourage that. Let's jump into some of this, right? So, you know, it mentions this from this site called Next Big Future. Okay. And, you know, one of the things I like about this is, you know, where it says about the actual event. So it says the flagship event of Japan Blockchain Week is Japan's largest conference for Web3 entrepreneurs, as well as investors, developers, media, policymakers, right? That's why we point out Genki Oda, right? From BitPoint / SBI and so on. And it says enthusiasts around the world. But another thing I really love here is, you know, when we talk about the United States and so on, you know, you're not going to have necessarily some of the key policy makers at some of these events. I mean, maybe, right? But there's a different narrative when it comes to Jasmy, or when it comes to Japan in general, embracing crypto, embracing blockchain, embracing distributed ledger technologies, Web3, AI, you name it, right? Totally different narrative. So, you know, it says basically, you know, like I mentioned earlier, Next City, the future Web3 starts here. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to find out a little bit more in regards to this event coming up. Now, as I mentioned before, one of the key speakers is basically Genki Oda. Yes, he's not officially part of Jasmy, but he's well partnered with Jasmy. And that is worth noting. And of course, what we saw earlier from JB, there is going to be some keynotes that are, you know, presented in regards to Jasmy and so on. So just because you don't see it on the site doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to happen. So I wanted to point that out. We're going to jump into this next part. And basically, it's the topic. One of the main key areas of concern is regards to stablecoins. So it says Japan's FSA to lift ban on foreign stablecoins by June 2023. This is a blast from the past. We reported this many months ago, roughly, let's face it, guys, about 6 months ago. It's been a hot topic. But this is where a lot of this terminology came from. So it says Japan's digital asset ecosystem is bracing itself for new changes, with the removal of the ban of foreign stablecoins being the most widely anticipated of the lot. You know, or of the of the lot. Excuse me. Sometimes I read it says IoT in my head because I read IoT all the time. But I've had other people send me DMs. You know who you guys are, and hey, June is here. What's going on with this? Is there any news in regards to, the complete confirmation of the lifting of the stablecoins? So, my attitude is not yet, but it's worth pointing out and referencing some of these things. And I want to reiterate this quote real quick before we get into some of the recent findings that I got for you guys. So it says, this does not mean that all foreign products of so-called stablecoins will be allowed without any restriction. An FSA spokesperson said back then, at least in January, when quizzed on whether Tether or Circle will be allowed in the country, the FSA spokesperson stated in the agency, quote, does not provide any opportunity to access such information before the decision is made. The regulatory watchdog disclosed that the stablecoins to be listed on Japanese exchanges are those that satisfy the requirements of the agency. Basically, Japan's FSA, like I mentioned, their version of the SEC, but way better, right? They embrace crypto, they embrace DLT, blockchain, and so on, not like how it is here in the US. But they have said it is keen on stablecoins that are properly backed and have their reserves backed by liquid assets. So my thing is this, right? I want to now introduce something else, like I was saying earlier, and that is basically this right here. This was reported earlier this month on June 2nd. As far as the source, it comes from blockworks.co. It mentions Japan's new stablecoin framework could spur US to act. This is worth paying attention to because, we've done many deep dives in regards to data free flow with trust, DFFT, and so on, and why it's so important to pay attention to all that. I said numerous times, and other content creators that cover Jasmy as well with their great research have mentioned, guys, this is worth paying attention to because we feel as a conglomerate group of content creators, and even those of you guys who watch us normally and so on, who represent this powerful community of the Jasmy army, we feel as though that DFFT is literally the path forward towards that framework. Japan literally has the framework. They are leading the charge. Well, what about some of the recent news in regards to that? So here it is. Japan, it says, as Japan takes an important step forward on stablecoins, industry participants say proposed U.S. laws around such crypto assets remain in flux. They do, right? It says it's just, excuse me, I get ahead of myself sometimes. As Japan's banks get set to issue stablecoins under new legislation, the U.S. lack of regulatory clarity in the segment is one hurdle blocking institutions in the country from doing the same. In regards to this, it says Japan in June 2022 passed, of course, the legal framework for stablecoins, and that, of course, which took effect on Thursday. The law requires that stablecoins, typically backed by one or more reserve assets, must be pegged to the yen or another legal tender and guarantee redemption to the holder at face value. It also confines the issuance of stablecoins to be licensed financial institutions, such as registered banks and so on, money transfer agents, and trust companies. The country's step to bridge the gap between TradeFi and DeFi with this initiative will benefit everyone in the long run, said David Towell, co-founder of crypto fund ProChain Capital. Look at this quote. In the US, most depositors, individual and business, have the benefit of free automated clearinghouse transfers and intranational, he told Blockworks. But Japan's initiative is a first step toward international, listen to this, guys, frictionless free money transfers. Again, a whole different narrative from the opposite side of the world, the Far East. We are the West, they are the Far East. It's basically that simple, if to put it lightly. Updating from decades-old payment systems to cheaper and faster distributed ledger technology will always be a win for the customer, according to Jeff Embry, managing partner at crypto hedge fund Globe 3 Capital. Now, this is a lot verbatim. I'm going to get into some of the other key things here in a bit, but I do love these quotes because, again, look at what's mentioned here. We're talking about especially some people who don't want to be invested into like Stellar, some other ones like Quant. Some people who don't even want to be invested in Ripple. I'm not some of these people. The way I look at it is these CBDCs are going to be here soon, whether we like it or not. I'm not going to be on the sidelines, but I get the position for a lot of people. But again, different narrative, different side of the world. Check this out. Look at this quote. The key will be making sure these coins utilize a trustless, immutable, and transparent blockchain versus being in control of one bank or one government like a CBDC would. Now, you may be wondering, well, Max, how is that going to be? It's all dependent on some of these local banks, for instance, like in Japan. And it goes into this. So it says Tokyo-based GU Technologies in March launched a public blockchain called Japan Open Chain as a way to allow listen to this, Japanese financial institutions to experiment with issuing stablecoins complying with the country's laws. Now, all this time between January of this year to present, we knew that there was going to be some, pilot programs when it comes to this. So here's a perfect example of what happened basically back in March in regards to like a pilot program. But it's basically, this has to be in compliance with the country's laws. And understand this, right? When you have like Genki Oda and people like that who are the policymakers, this is another perfect example of why I feel as though that these connections that Jasmy has to these policymakers is big, because when we always talk about some of these other cryptocurrencies, where it's Ripple's XRP, Stellar Lumens, Quant, you name it, understand that they, or I should say we in general in crypto, we have got to have that framework in order to get the clarity that we all need and want, right? That's the pathway forward towards having like the BlackRocks of the world jump into this whole crypto thing, like with both feet in 100% ready to go, right? So it says the stablecoins would be compatible in regards to the compliance with Ethereum wallets via MiniMax, for example. Now, we know that Jasmy, for instance, is built upon Ethereum. We understand that Jasmy chose Hyperledger Fabric, and we know that in the future, Jasmy is going to, based off the roadmap and so on, way out into the future, try to create their own blockchain. I mean, that's all really very powerful, impressive things, right? But it says, Embry said that if the Japanese banks only look to create their own stablecoins, the stablecoin ecosystem will struggle. This is the difference between the United States, Japan, and other parts of the world. I don't think that they're going to end up doing this bad thing. It just doesn't seem like it's part of the equation. When we get into this outline, you'll understand why I feel that, and you'll feel that way, and you'll come hopefully to the conclusion and be on par with me when it comes to some of these findings, because you're going to see this outline of how this all makes sense. So check out this other quote, and then we'll get into this next part. It says, we like to see stablecoins originate outside the bank ecosystem bubble, as that is where true, immutable, transparent stablecoin innovation and adoption will prosper. The Globe 3 Capital executive noted, right? And my thing is this is where we'll get the adoption that we're looking for. Some people say, well, how so, right? So I'm going to go further into this. I believe it's on this page. Let me just double check real quick. And here it is. Yes, this is the key part about why I'm putting so much emphasis on it. So if you're still with me in regards to this is like an aha moment in my opinion. This is the country's step to bridge the gap between TradeFi and DeFi. Listen to this for just a brief moment. With this initiative, this will benefit everyone in the long run, said David Tawil, co-founder of crypto fund ProChain Capital. The reason why, basically, before we get into this next quote, is because, let's face it, guys, when we talk about, for instance, like with Ripple's XRP, the flip of the switch, people talk about like ISO 222, and that is definitely worth paying attention to. But we need to get full implementation of the traditional banking sectors. We have to understand that there's some banking sectors, like the central banks of the world and so on, they're already on already upgraded their systems, if you will. But it's the ones that are lagging behind. We get full implementation of, for instance, ISO 222 going by late 2025. That's a big deal for the ones that are part of, cross-border payments and so on, right? Real-time gross settlements, RTGS, and so on. Because, with the quantum financial system, they're going to be using just that, this new system with ISO 222, you name it. And with full implementation, we understand that in itself is adoption, right? That's the flip of the switch as far as that goes. But what about this whole flip of the switch for data free flow with trust? Or, for instance, Japan and the stable coins and so on. This is, in my opinion, the aha moment. So it says again, and I'll pound this home a little bit more, the country's step to bridge the gap between TradeFi and DeFi with this initiative will benefit everyone in the long run. Think about it for a second. If you have that regulatory framework that's going to lead to clarity, that is their switch being basically flipped on. How is that their switch that's basically being turned on? It's TradeFi, because TradeFi still represents the entire conglomerate group of the masses, of the entire, population, right? Populations, whether it's here in the United States and abroad, right, are part of the traditional finance system, right? And so even here in the United States, I think we have with all the doom and gloom of the SEC and so on, we still only have about 2% adoption. Can you imagine a flip of the switch where, boom, Japan, you have everybody now has access? That's one of the key things. So if everybody has access, because, this is that bridge in regards to the gap of TradeFi and DeFi, well, again, the access, right? So I will keep saying this, over and over again. You give people access to pairings, whether it's for, stable coins, foreign and domestic, it's a big deal. This part, in the US, most depositors, individuals, and businesses have the benefit of free automated clearinghouse transfers in internationally toll blockers, but Japan's initiative is a first step towards international frictionless free money transfers. By having no friction, you have that's the whole point about clarity. You get clarity, there is none of this friction. Think about all the friction that we have here in the United States. In regards to decades-old payment systems, we understand, like, for instance, with the Swiss system, especially here in the United States, that dates back to the 1970s. It's old, it's outdated, hence why it's going to be such a big deal when ISO 222 goes live, that you have, for instance, some of these ones that are tied into cross-border payments, real-time gross settlements, and so on. They need that new system to move the money cross-border and be able to have, for instance, we talk about Japan. They have, for instance, special characters, Japanese characters, and so on. If you're going to, send money from one country to the other, right, the Bank of Japan or Bank of Tokyo to, for instance, the Bank of Greece, right? One uses certain alphanumeric characters and the other bank doesn't. Things get garbled up in the talk with the traditional MT messaging system. With ISO 2022, everything, of course, makes more sense because the technology is used to interpret all these things. There's not delays of, I'm contacting this bank manager for approval on this transaction because he doesn't understand what it says in the message. Now, of course, this is a video about Jasmy, and of course, Jasmy is not part of ISO 222. I don't want people to get confused in regards to that. But again, the reason why I make some of the, or bring some of these examples to you guys is for you to have a broader sense of why all of this makes sense, right? So again, look at this. Updating from decades-old payment systems to cheaper and faster DLTs, right? That's the bottom line. Will always be a win for the customer. Who are some of these customers? Well, like it says, the key will be making sure these stablecoins utilize the trustless, immutable, and transparent blockchain versus being in control of one bank or one government like a CBDC. Now, what is an example of this? Boom, let's take you to this. Mega Bank, right? So this was reported from, I believe, this is Cointelegraph. Yes, it is. MUFG to facilitate Japanese bank-backed stablecoins via Progmat Coin platform. This was reported not that long ago in regards to June 3rd of this year. Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group hasn't unveiled what the firms will or what firms will be the first to utilize this platform. However, a handful of banks have reportedly opted for a separate stable coin solution. Now we understand in Japan, like you have all sorts of different types of examples. Like even with Jasmy, we talk about the DD coin, right? That's one example. There's going to be some other ones that are part of the mix. Now it mentions specifically right here, Mega Bank Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group has announced its stablecoin issuance platform, which is referred to as Progmat Coin, will soon be used by banks in Japan to launch Japanese yen-pegged stablecoins on several public blockchains. You know, my attitude is, okay, well, it's not going to necessarily say Jasmy, because we know that Jasmy doesn't have its own blockchain yet, but that's something that they're trying to get in the future. But we do know, right, if we've done more of our own research, that Jasmy is built upon Ethereum. I'm going to show you guys some of that here in a bit, but it mentions also Japanese banks have recently outlined intentions to either look into or launch stablecoins following new regulations that came into effect this month, as in June. In mid-2022, the Japanese government passed a bill prohibiting the issuance of stablecoins by non-banking institutions. The bill officially came into effect on June 1st, and on June 2nd, there was an announcement from MUFG that outlined the Progmat coin will be used to facilitate the issuance of bank-backed stablecoins on Ethereum. Yes, we know Jasmy is built on Ethereum. But on top of that, a Polygon, Avalanche, and Cosmos with more networks to be added in the future. MUFG also revealed that its blockchain tech and security partners Toki and DataChain are building a bridge to enable cross-chain transactions, lending, and swaps between the supported blockchains. The bank expects the cross-chain infrastructure to be launched in the second quarter of, and of course it's chopped up here, but let's face it, it's probably 2024 because second quarter 2023 has already come to pass. Here's that ecosystem. You do see Ethereum here, as well as some of the other ones connected and being part of the whole thing of the Toki ecosystem. Now, another thing I want to point out is that MUFG has not revealed which banks will be the first to utilize the Progmat coin. However, it confirmed to Cointelegraph at the time of its 2022 announcement that it's working on launching its own Japanese yen-pegged stablecoin. According to the June 1st report from the Nikkei Asia, Shikoku Bank, Tokyo, Kirabashi, and Mina Bank all plan to issue stablecoins. However, it appears they won't be using the Progmat coin platform to do so. So even though that, you know, Progmat coin is not necessarily going to blanket all these banks, it's worth pointing out because what? They are embracing blockchain technology. That's, of course, worth paying attention to. Now, this last part I want to jump into. The publication states these banks will use a separate stablecoin platform developed by Tokyo-based startup GU Technologies, and I did take more of a deeper dive into that. So let's jump into that because, you know, we do need to find out, well, what's, you know, if Progmat coin is not going to be used on all these other ones, then what's the other one going to be? Or is it more than one other player? Which is a great question. So let's jump into this. So when doing so, I went right to gu-tech.com, and I thought I'd bring this to your attention. It says, you know, bringing freedom to people through the power of digital. With the new digital revolution era in sight, where finance and information technologies used, or fused, I should say, together with blockchain, GU Technologies Inc. aims to create a society where everyone is happy and free through our rich, inventive ideas and unshakable technology. Hence why I feel as though, like, yeah, you know, this is Jasmy video. We do need to point this out because we know that, for instance, with Jasmy, they talk about the same type of things, literally in terminology, whether it's, you know, aiming to create a new society where everyone's happy. Remember in the past, talking about, you know, this new whole, you know, data or platinum data with happiness. Think about it. I mean, you know, it's the same type of terminology. Smart cities, society 5.0. It's all worth pointing out, all worth paying attention to. So I do have this press release. So of course it was, you know, towards the end of March, and check out what it mentions here. Okay, and again, this is going to make more sense to you. So it says NTT Communications joins Japan Open Chain as validator, blockchain co-operator. And it goes on to mention some key things I want to bring to your attention. And basically speaking, it says, you know, it has decided that another company will participate in the consortium. Well, who is that other company? So it goes on to mention Japan Open Chain is a blockchain infrastructure operated by Japanese companies in compliance with Japanese law. Hence why, it's so important to pay attention to like Genki Oda. He's a policymaker with great influence. So it goes on to also mention providing a secure environment for developing Web3 businesses. This chain is fully compatible with who? Ethereum. Now, of course, I'm not the biggest fan of Ethereum, but I do realize that even though it's an outdated technology, this is still one of the top ones being used as far as, the utility kicking in and so on. So it goes on to mention providing high speed. I don't know about Ethereum being high speed, right? But sufficient decentralization, high levels of security. I mean, in reality, many times people have referenced that they feel as though, especially when it comes to like meme coin projects and so on, they're trusting Ethereum, even though it's ERC20 based token. It has a lot more security than, for instance, Binance Smart Chain and so on. Now, I know some people are going to agree to disagree on that. You can look more into it. I think that's a valid point. That's worth paying attention to as well. But it goes on to mention, stability, performance, and so on. But this is an actual validator, right? And of course, we need some of these validators in order to actually get these things on chain in regards to, getting that mass adoption for that bridge of TradeFi and DeFi. It says currently it is operated by Corgear Corporation. And look what's mentioned here, guys. Sony Group. So, my thing is this, right? The terminology, connecting the dots and so on. Understanding, for instance, what is Genki Oda with BitPoint, SBI, key speaker at what? This blockchain conference that's coming up. The other bigger players and what they're tied into. Sony Group, for crying out loud. It goes on to also mention, this will eventually grow to 21 companies. They're going to accelerate the expansion of the Japan Open Chain ecosystem and the strengthening of its network by bringing on board NTT.com, one of the NTT Group's companies and reputable validators with trust. It goes on more to mention more and more about this, right? Management and operation of blockchain infrastructure. All this stuff is good. But that key part about Sony, yeah, that's definitely worth paying attention because, we already understand the ties with Sony, whether it's, Kunitake Ando or, for instance, Mr. Sato and other key players, right? So I just recently found this. I thought it was great to bring it to you guys and so on. There was, of course, a little bit more in regards to this. And here is some of the more recent news. So this comes from Bitcoin.com. This was reported June 5th. Check this out. Japanese banking giant MUFG, like we were talking about earlier, to deploy stablecoins on public blockchains. There's the actual billboard out in front of the actual bank in Japan. Goes on to mention that, if you weren't aware of this, that MUFG is the largest bank in Japan. And they announced, of course, like I mentioned earlier, its plan to deploy and distribute bank-backed stablecoins on different public blockchains. Well, you better believe that, the ones to pay attention to would obviously be Ethereum. And of course, since, again, Jasmy's built on Ethereum, I'm just connecting the dots when it comes to this. It's something that I do, right? The Japanese bank has partnered with DataChain, a blockchain interoperability company, and Toki for cross-chain bridge to allow this interoperation of these licensed stablecoins along several blockchains using Progmet Coin Protocol. I mean, it's a little bit of a reiteration, but one thing I do also want to point out is that, some people say, well, how much money is going to be, used here, right? How much money can they technically put on chain and so on? So in regards to that, it says the bank, which held 776 billion in assets under management with AUM, by 2020, is partnering with DataChain, a blockchain interoperability company, and Toki for a cross-chain bridge. It's worth a lot, right? So the announcement of MUFG comes after revised funds settlement law passed in 2022, and that came into effect on Thursday, at least, let's face it, about a week or so ago. And that basically, look at this, guys, allowed for financial institutions to issue stablecoins. That's big in itself because the ties to blockchain. MUFG will use this in-house developer Progmat Coin platform for this. Progmat Coin is a protocol intended to facilitate the settlements, security-based products with extended capabilities to manage cryptocurrency and embedded financial use cases. And of course, the rest of this is a little bit more of a reiteration of what I was talking about. But we're going to jump into this next part just to kind of pound it home just a little bit more. And I realize that a lot of you guys, for instance, follow Binance, but even Binance was reporting, right? So it says MUFG to enable Japanese banks in launching yen-pegged stablecoins on public blockchains. And the key areas I want to show you guys here in regards to a little bit more about Progmat Coin and why this is all something that we should pay attention to and so on. So it mentions this right here. I think it's on this third paragraph. I'm sorry. The new legislation. All right. So the new legislation implemented in Japan in June 2023, which is basically now going on, allows trust banks, including that of MUFG that we talked about here, to issue the stablecoins. This regulatory change has prompted Japanese banks to explore stablecoin initiatives, but on top of that, in regards to Progmat Coin, aims to capitalize on this evolving landscape and provide a secure and compliant platform for stablecoin issuance. So if you have this secure and compliant platform, to me, this is the pathway forward towards the institutional money and so on. I think you're literally seeing a taste of that institutional money coming in. Why? Some people say that to me. They're like, well, how, Max? I don't get this. It's because they already have the framework literally laid down. Yes, DFFT is the pathway forward, but that is the framework. If we're trying to get to the goal of clarity, the framework, you already got that going on. Where compared to the United States, we just simply don't have that. I want to get into this last part. I believe it's right here. And I love this statement. Let's just pound this home before we completely wrap up this video. As stablecoin adoption gains traction and regulations evolve, it becomes increasingly important for banks and financial institutions to explore the potential of digital currencies and their integration into traditional financial systems. Yes, true. MUFG's Progmat Coin platform is an essential step in this direction, providing a secure and compliant solution for stablecoin issuance and facilitating the growth of digital asset ecosystem. Now, I want to state this for the record. I feel as though this new thing, for some people, this is not a new thing. You guys do more of your extended research, but for the masses who are not aware of, for instance, Progmat Coin and MUFG, you got to keep in mind when we talk about utility, it's not that necessarily like Jasmy is working with these banks, but this is a key, coin, I should say, a project that will enable this mass adoption. So this is a key proponent to get this job done of this mass adoption. And, when we talk about utility-based cryptocurrencies, coins, tokens, and so on, we always want to see that utility being used, right? We want, of course, to see, the mass adoption of personal data lockers, secure smart PCs, and so on. But my thing that I've always have stated from, the beginning of doing live shows and recording videos and so on, I want to be invested into the cryptocurrencies that are tied into the financial sectors of the world where institutional money plays a key role. Boom. Here you go. Perfect example of Jasmy being able to have the institutional money coming in because we understand the connections. Sony, for one, and some of these other key things that we've highlighted in this video. All right. In closing, check this out. This is from Brian. Please follow him at WC3068. This is good stuff that he has here. He has mentioned out of the over 23,000 cryptocurrencies, I believe it's up to like 25,000 on CMC, but out of over 23K cryptocurrencies, only 501 are approved for trading in Indonesia as of their updated list on June 9th. The document is regulation issued by the Indonesian Commodity Futures Trading Supervisory Agency, basically telling the SEC that they do not see any of these 501 cryptos. It's just that, guys, as securities, including, you better believe it, Jasmy. Here's the reference if you want to go nerd it out at that URL that you see right there. But let's scroll down to what he's talking about. And here it is, number 162, Jasmy coin. That's big. That's bullish in itself. Because you know what? With all the doom and gloom that's happened recently, was it 61 to 67 different cryptocurrencies labeled as securities? We don't want to see Jasmy get listed on it. And so we understand that a lot of these are long-term holds, and we should see a different narrative. I'm, of course, rooting for a Ripple win in regards to the Ripple XRP case. And, of course, that, in my opinion, could also be the pathway forward to also help towards getting some of this clarity that we're all looking for, especially here in the United States. But again, back to what I was saying earlier, Japan is leading the charge because they have embraced crypto, DLT, blockchain, and so on. All right, this last part, okay, and this is truly it, comes from the Nikkei. It mentions cryptocurrencies, and that basically is Japanese banks prepare to launch stablecoins. New law expected to spur innovation payments. And again, this is just a little bit more of that reiteration. This was on the first, like it says, and I know this is chopped off, but it gets into the key things. Japanese banks, small and large, are on track to start issuing stablecoins this year under legislation taking effect. Of course, that happened, I think it was like not last Thursday, but the Thursday before. And it mentions cryptocurrencies pegged to legal tender. That's unbelievable in itself. A commodity or another underlying asset are designed to buffer against the major fluctuations in value. And examples, of course, are Tether and, for instance, USD coin. So that's big in itself. And the reason why I wanted to bring this all to your attention, because, this is all being mentioned by numerous people from our community and so on. What's going on with this? It's now June. Are we going to see anything in regards to this? I think that you're now seeing the ball really, really coming or rolling here. And my key thing is this: the pathway forward for that mass adoption. Mass adoption is the key to getting us all to what I like to refer to as the promised land. And that's why I'm so focused on Jasmy, because the way I look at it, is Japan is right there. They're embracing it while the rest of the world, sorry to say, especially the United States, is running away from it. It's sad. There's other elements that's going to change this in the future for the U.S. and other places and so on. But it's very impressive to see what Japan is doing and so on, and to see Jasmy is the Bitcoin of Japan. Big stuff. So thanks again for watching this deep dive in regards to Jasmy. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please hit that bell notification if you appreciate the content that we deliver to you guys on a regular basis. Have a great new week coming up, and have a blessed day, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.